as you guys know, the rule is if a senator can't show up for his bill, that bill ain't heard. However, the Senate is on the floor, so we obviously going to make exceptions. We have a Senator Tarr, a representative from Senator Tarr's office, please. Ma'am, if you'd like to go ahead and present.
Yes.
Thank you.
For the record, I'm Sandy Rosenbluth, Chief of Staff for Senator Tarr. Chair Wilson, Vice Chair Crosby, and members of the Economic Matters Committee, thank you for your consideration of Senate Bill 1013, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages License Extension, which seeks to extend the expiration date of a Class B D7 alcoholic beverage license for Coppermine Cafe, located at 5736 Falls Road in Baltimore City. This bill would ensure that the license does not expire until July 1st, 2026, for the purpose of completing a transfer of ownership and renewal at the same location. Coppermine Cafe transferred a BD7 license in 2023 from the Curb Shop, a previous establishment at the same address. After the license transfer, Coppermine management undertook substantial renovations to the licensed premises. These renovations, coupled with the decision not to open the business for public service during this period, led to a situation where by March 2024, the license was considered expired due to inactivity for more than 180 days without any alcoholic beverage purchases. Senate Bill 1013 is simply a renewal of Coppermine Cafe's license, ensuring that they can operate as originally intended. Thank you for your time and consideration of this legislation. I respectfully urge you to support this bill to allow Coppermine Cafe to continue to operate and thrive in our community.
Ma'am, thank you very much. You did a wonderful job. I'm sure is there a delegation support letter for this? Okay. I just want to make sure if somebody from Baltimore get. All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
That does conclude this hearing. Next we have Senate Bill 834, Senator Waldstreicher. Okay, well, is anybody from, there's no.
Senator Brooks.
We'll do Ben Brooks. Senate Bill 529, please. If somebody could call somebody from Waldstreicher's office. We need somebody from Waldstreicher's office over here. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilson, Vice Chair Crosby, and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Kimberly Shiloh, Chief of Staff for Senator Ben Brooks of the 10th Legislative District. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you on SB 529, Business Occupations and Professions, Professional Engineering Examination. The purpose of this bill is to ensure the safety and quality of engineers, no matter their educational or employment background, by requiring them to pass the Fundamentals of Engineering exam as well as the Principles of Engineering exam. Currently, there are 3 ways in which to secure a licensure as a professional engineer in Maryland. First, be a graduate from a college or university approved by the state board with a 4-year degree in engineering, 4 years of satisfactory work, and passage of both proficiency exams. Second, be a graduate from a college or university not approved by the state board with 8 years of work experience and also pass both proficiency exams. Third, be an applicant without a college degree with 12 years of experience under a licensed professional engineer and have only passed the Principles of Engineering exam. SB 529 would streamline all pathways to require passage of both the Fundamentals of Engineering and the Principles of Engineering, merely aligning the experience-only pathway with the educational pathways. This small change requires the same qualifications and offers continuity in the licensing of engineers. For these reasons, we ask for a favorable report.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair Wilson, Vice Chair Crosby, and esteemed members of this committee. For the record, my name is Greg Morgan, and I'm here today representing the Maryland Society of Professional Engineers and request your support of Senate Bill 529. As stated, the purpose of this bill is to correct what appears to be an oversight in the examination requirements for all candidates for licensure as a professional engineer in Maryland. Maryland is one of few states that provides a path to licensure through an experience-only process. However, unlike the other 2 pathways, there are a combination which requires a combination of education and experience, the current process requires a candidate with the experience-only pathway to take and pass the Principles of Engineering examination, whereas the education pathways require candidates to pass both the fundamentals of engineering as well as the Principles of Engineering examination. This bill does not add any additional experience or educational requirements. It simply makes equal the examination requirements for all candidates for licensure as a professional engineer in Maryland. In closing, I would like to thank Senator Brooks and his office for sponsoring this bill and for the Senate for passing the bill. For the reasons stated above, as well as the written and oral testimony presented to this committee from the Maryland licensed professional engineers and members of the MDSPE, I respectfully request a favorable report for Senate Bill 529. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe we have one more favorable before we take questions. We have the virtual.
So I'm here virtually.
Brief indulgence, sir. Hold on one second. Do we have him on? Can we see him?
There we go.
Go ahead, sir. Thank
Good
you.
afternoon, everybody. Chair Wilson and committee members, thanks for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. My name is Torrey Pierce. I'm with the engineering firm Frederick Ward Associates up in Bel Air. I also serve as the legislative chair for the Maryland Society of Professional Engineers, and that's who I'm here today representing. We ask as an association that you support this bill. One thing to add to the testimonies from Kim and Greg is that the fundamentals exam itself has evolved over the past couple of decades insofar as it used to be a broad-based exam for college graduates to cover all engineering fields, and now today it is a prerequisite exam that only covers the field of practice. So if I want to get my license and be a civil engineer, I'm going to take a FE exam in civil engineering. And if I want to get my license as a mechanical engineer, similarly, it would be an FE exam for the mechanical engineers. So the experience pathway that we have in Maryland, which is great, should function fine, and we're not really hurting anybody's opportunity to practice engineering. So for that, as a society, we think it's good for the profession and good for the citizens of Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Delegate Harrison, I believe we have a question.
Yes, thank you. I just need to make sure that I'm understanding properly. So an individual who has just graduated, they have to take 2 exams before and pass them before they can be considered a professional engineer. Is that correct?
So they have to have.
Can you speak directly into the
Sure.
mic,
So they
please?
have to have 4 years to get in the accredited pathway, 4 years education by a state accredited university, 4 years experience, or 4 years education, non-accredited, and 8 years experience. And then but anywhere along the line, and including the experience pathway, they can take the fundamentals of engineering exam at any point. They can only take the principles of engineering once the prerequisite education or experience has been completed.
And so then you're asking then that an individual who has 12 years of hands-on experience under a licensed engineer who's already passed these to go back and take, I shouldn't say go back, but to require them to take the 2 exams? That's what I'm trying to make sure that I
So
understand.
anyone that's currently licensed under that pathway is grandfathered in, only moving forward. So if someone coming through the process on the experience-only pathway, they would be required to take the fundamentals of engineering exams, such as well as everybody, as the other 2 pathways.
And what are they required to take now?
Just the principles of engineering.
Just the principles, but going forward, they will be required to take fundamentals.
And Mr. Pierce can answer a little more clearly, but they can take that exam any point over that 12-year period,
Which one?
the fundamentals.
The fundamentals. Right, so right now, you're asking them to take the fundamentals, but currently they would take the principles. Did I get it mixed up again?
No, you're correct.
Okay.
But they can't take the principles of engineering exam until they've completed the 12 years of required experience.
So then going forward, when you said going forward, so an individual that right now is 10 years in, if this passes, so next year it'll be their 11th year, they would be required to take the fundamentals and the principles.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
Just briefly, do you know how many other groups like this we're doing this for? Any other professional organizations?
I'll refer to Mr. Pierce because he's very familiar with the other.
I'll refer to him then, okay?
Sure.
Okay.
So our company, we provide architectural services, landscape architecture, and surveying. And in those professions, to get your license, you can do it with a degree or you can do it with experience and not have a degree. But in all situations, for those licenses to acquire them, you have to take all of the same exams as somebody with a graduate degree or graduated with a college degree. So everybody in architecture has to take all the tests that are required, everybody in surveying and landscape architecture as well. So engineering is the only one that excluded one of the exams for the non-degreed path.
Are you all the only ones wanting to do this today, though?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Do you worry that we're opening up Pandora's box on some other professions?
No, actually, we're actually coming into compliance with the other professions by doing this. They're already doing it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. My question is based on what other states are doing, because I know that the professional engineering is not just in Maryland. So how are the other states handling the education versus the?
So I'll start out and then we'll defer to Mr. Pierce. But
Okay.
Maryland's one of the few states that actually offers an experience-only pathway.
Okay.
And one of the problems with a licensed engineer in Maryland that went this pathway and then wants to get a license in another state, let's say their company is doing a large project in another state, oftentimes they cannot get a reciprocal license in that state because they did not have the FE exam. And
Okay,
I'll
that's
refer
what I wanted to know.
Mr.
Okay.
Pierce.
All right, that's clear. Thanks.
Seeing no more questions, that does conclude this hearing. Thank you guys very much. Sir, thank you online. You can log off now.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Our colleagues, we do have one more hearing, which is Senate Bill 834. I believe there's a brief indulgence. Unfortunately, there's I know that the Senate's still on the floor. Oh, are you here? Oh, Ms. Venable? Yes. Outstanding. If you could come on up, and if you have a panel, please bring them up as well. Hey, Bill, make sure your phone's off. I see you here. If you could. Yes, sir. Just want to make sure. Right.
Not me, I promise.
You're setting a great example, Bill. Go ahead, guys.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. I just found out that I was going to be presenting this bill today, so thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it.
If you speak into the microphone, because we don't have the speakers.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Is it better? Okay. So many car manufacturers now impose minimum allowable advertised price rules on their dealers and their customers. Those rules set a high floor for the prices dealers can list for many new car models in advertisement or even on their own websites. Dealers can be punished with loss of access to incentives and other supports they need to compete if they list prices below the MAAP level. And that often means they can't accurately list their own price discounts on their own websites. As a result, the prices customers see on a dealer's website often are $1,000 to $1,500 or more higher than the actual transaction prices available in the showroom. Under current manufacturer rules, dealers can be punished even for posting language that suggests lower prices may be available in the dealership. For dealers, posting seemingly innocuous phrases like "contact us for other price offers" or "additional discounts may be available at the dealership" can lead to a loss of important benefits. SB 834 does not undo the minimum advertised price. It simply allows dealers to indicate on their websites that there may be a lower price available. I'm asking for a favorable report on SB 834, vehicle laws, manufacturers and dealers, prices listed on dealer websites. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Franz Schneiderman, Consumer Auto Maryland. Thank you, Chairman Wilson and members of the committee for the opportunity to address the bill. I work with a group called Consumer Auto Maryland that works for safety and transparency for Maryland car buyers and Maryland consumers. We strongly support the bill because we think it's all about transparency and price competition and access to better information about price discounts. Thank you, Ms. Dudley, for explaining this. Right now there are all kinds of discounts that are available in showrooms, but these MAAP rules we've talked about in the past prohibit dealerships from listing them in advertisements or even on their own websites, and they can even be punished for using language that suggests lower prices may be available in the showroom. That really gets in the way of price transparency for consumers. You don't get accurate information when you look online, and for dealers who want to compete to offer better prices, it's a real problem and a real impediment to letting folks know about discounts that people really need, especially in a context where cars now cost on average more than $49,000 new, and they're going up with the new tariffs. As Ms. Dudley explained, this is a narrower bill than what we've talked about in this committee before. It doesn't prevent the enforcement of MAAP rules or essentially preclude manufacturers from imposing them on dealers. It's a narrower bill. It simply allows dealers to use language that tells people that, hey, lower prices may be available in the showroom. It doesn't change the rules on fraud or misleading car offers. Anything that's illegal fraud now would still be illegal fraud. It should, however, give people somewhat better information to some price discounts that'll help them save money and help dealers who want to compete on price communicate with customers. So we think it makes the market work better for consumers and for dealers. Hope you'll support the bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wilson and Vice Chair and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Rob Smith. I'm the president of Fitzgerald Auto Malls, an employee-owned company with 1,300 Maryland employees and their families. We've built our business on transparency and trust. The price you see is the price you pay. That's what consumers expect, and it's what they deserve. Outdated policies like the minimum allowable advertised price work against the transparency by artificially inflating prices online. These policies force dealers to list prices 1,000 or more above what customers can actually pay, and they even prohibit dealers from hinting that lower prices may be available in the showroom. Mind you, this is only on the internet, not on the cars themselves physically where I can put the real price on the car. Why? Because manufacturers penalize dealers who break these rules by pulling critical incentives, creating a rigged system where one dealer gets a discount and another one doesn't. While manufacturers claim dealers can set their own prices, that doesn't tell the whole story. How can customers know the price you see could be lower? SB 834 doesn't ban MAP. It does one simple thing. It prevents a manufacturer from punishing a dealer for informing consumers that the price they see is the minimum allowable advertised price and a lower price could be available. This isn't about deceptive advertising or bait and switch. It's about honesty and fairness. So I asked the committee, why would anyone oppose telling customers the truth? Fitzgerald Auto Mall stands for fairness, transparency, and trust, and I urge you to support SB 834 to help ensure Maryland consumers get honest pricing information they deserve. Thank you.
I see a few questions. I do have one of my own. And ma'am, I guess this is to you. While your senator's not here, I'm looking at the bill, and it seems like this section of the bill allows an individual who violates it to be apparently convicted of a misdemeanor and up to 2 months in jail. Do you think your boss, I'm shocked because, definitely, normal Senator Wald Stryker bills don't have any jail time. So I'm wondering if this is something. What? Is this like the Twilight Zone?
Is that your phone?
I was wondering if you think he would be adverse to striking that part of the bill, because, I think a lot of times here we realize that if we're weakening the criminal laws, it makes zero sense to strengthen or, tighten up on laws against business owners. And so I would ask you to send that back to him if you could, because I don't see again why we would throw a business owner in jail for violating something.
Could you tell me what line that's on?
I'm looking at the prohibited advertising practices in general that this falls under.
Well, I'm happy to pass that message along.
That's all. Yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Franz, I'm sure you agree, right? We don't need to lock somebody up in prison for
We're
this.
certainly not looking to put anyone in jail.
Yeah, right? So I'm sure we can get through this. Okay, who's first? You're doing great. Delegate Pruski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Schneiderman, you kind of described the bill as narrow. Can you help me understand that? Like, because I know we're gonna have other testimony coming forward. Can you clarify what you meant by that? What else is included, not included? Thank you.
Sure, thank you for the question. As I said, I see this as a compromise bill. It's, a couple years ago, we had some legislation that essentially would have prohibited manufacturers from enforcing these MAAP rules or doing anything to punish a dealer that publishes any honest price on their website. This bill, and for that bill, we had a lot of support from the advocacy community, frankly, but I know there was also considerable opposition, and there were folks on this committee who felt that that went too far. So what we've done is we've produced what I see as a compromise, narrower bill that doesn't prohibit the enforcement of these rules altogether. It does, however, allow dealers to use some modest language on their websites describing the possibility that lower prices can be available at the showroom. Because the irony is these rules don't apply to the showroom, though they do apply to prices that are listed on the website. So we hope that that's less controversial and seems less burdensome to you folks on the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in 2021, I bought my truck. You said that it was prices were increased due to tariffs. And I'm interested in that comment. I think
they will increase.
They will increase due to tariffs. Yeah, because in 2021, I bought my truck and there was an ADM of $10,000 on it. And I don't recall there being any tariffs at that time. And I was just wondering why you injected that into the conversation.
Oh, no, it's just about what's going on down there. About to, effective tomorrow, great. They're imposing big tariffs.
I think he thinks it's going to just get worse.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
With the 25% tariffs on cars from out of this country.
Yeah, so they should be made here. You're right. Thank you.
We clearly know what side of the aisle you're on. Thank you, Seth. Who's next? Delegate Queen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question about, I guess, from trying to get consensus. I was looking at the way people signed up for the testimony. So in JPR, there was a lot of there was more favorable with amendments, and now in ECM, it's unfavorable. So I'm asking, was there an amendment offer that you couldn't come to agreement on, or do you know, and maybe we'll get to ask before, but was there something you discussed that would get you all into a favorable posture? Do you know?
That I'm not sure about.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's all. Just wanted to know.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, yes. I know that Fitzgerald is, what you see is what you get. And so this probably doesn't apply to you. But we had information sent to us from the Automobile Dealers Association, who is opposed to this bill. And basically, they say that Maryland would be the only state to regulate, I guess it's the manufacturers, what's MAP?
Minimum allowable advertised price. Minimum
allowable price. And they go on to say that your industry is facing 25% tariffs and excise tax and fee increases. And they are concerned about potential loss of manufacturer advertising funds as well. So that says, the way that I'm reading this is that the manufacturer allows you to advertise something and they give the dealer some sort of funds as relates to that.
Right.
Can you clarify that? And then can you address that particular concern because you are an automobile dealer who puts whatever their price is on the list is what the person pays. There are no extra markups, if I remember when I bought my car from Fitzgerald years ago.
That's correct. I can tell you that unfortunately, the price you see isn't always the price you pay because the way the internet works today and the punishment that they can apply to a dealer. There are incentives, there are rebates, well, not rebates or consumer related, there are dealer incentives and marketing incentives that they provide to the dealers. The way the manufacturers provide to the dealers as long as they comply with the rules. What the other side's going to say is, well, they can do whatever they want. And they just, they just don't have to follow the rules and they have to forego those incentives. That puts every consumer, at a disadvantage. It puts that dealer to disadvantage. The compromise was about not lowering the price, which is what everyone's concerned about. It's just letting consumers know minimum allowable advertised price exists. We're not even allowed to tell people that exists, that the price that they're seeing on the internet is not necessarily the price they're going to see on the car when they come in.
And this bill would then address
This bill would allow us to at least tell people this is the minimum allowable advertised price. That's all it's trying to do, is not punish us for being able to say that.
And for the record, Fitzgerald, when they advertise what you get.
That's right. We try to, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for bringing forward the bill. I know for several years I've been trying to work on this issue to provide more transparency to consumers because especially after the pandemic when the whole world switched to online shopping in big time, right? Out of necessity and a convenience, and there's a big cultural shift, especially, for those of us who hate bargaining on car prices, something you don't buy every day. It's very important to be able to see the consistency of pricing between the showroom and the virtual window of showroom, which is the dealer's own website. But that's not even what this bill does. This bill doesn't even go this far. And just to be clear for everyone's benefit, those cars sitting on the lots are the properties of those dealers. They already paid for them. It's their property. They should have the right. In every other industry, we allow people to advertise whatever prices they are willing to sell at, right? So why do we penalize consumers when it comes to a car buy? It just never makes any sense to me. I know this bill doesn't even go that far. It just says this is the minimum price and there could be other options available. That's all it does. So I appreciate you bringing forward this, and I hope our committee will be open-minded enough for a bill that already passed the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess I'm looking at the record that this bill passed out of the Senate in committee 11-0.
Yes.
And then unanimous off the floor.
Right.
Which normally doesn't mean much in the House, but still, I guess it is worth observing. Seth?
Very quickly, what the good delegate said is very interesting to me, because there are where they'll, manufacturers will put product on your lot. I used to own a cigar store. A lot of times there was 30 days, those type of things, and I don't own that product until I pay for it. So is that?
No, we actually own it before it arrives. They draft out of our account. It comes on the minute it's on the truck, it's mine.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And France, I guess because, we have the opposition coming up, I just want to clarify a few things just from the basic research that I've done that generally car inflation on cars is about 2-3% per year. In the past 5 years, however, the average price of a car has gone up 37%. That's what I understand. And I know you guys work in the auto industry, up to 50% depending on the kind of cars that you buy. So is that your understanding as well?
Yes.
Affordability is our #1 concern right now.
Because it seems to be that within 5 years, it would maybe, the cars would be 15% higher if they're following inflation norms. However, they're upwards of 50, and as I said from the research I've done, 37% is the national average that the price of a car has gone up in the last 5 years, which is a great concern to me when it comes to affordability. The second part of this question is when it comes to, I do believe we're going to hit, contrary to what some believe, that the tariffs may cause a slump in car sales. Now, that means you're going to be stuck with those cars that you've already purchased on your lot, correct?
Correct.
And unless you can do something different, you're going to be kind of locked into what you can advertise.
Correct.
And you're not even going to be able to move those cars off your lot in order to make room for the 2026 models.
Correct.
I understand. Okay, I believe that's all. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Jesse. Jesse, yes?
Yes.
She didn't.
Yes, CT. Thank you. Appreciate the courtesy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So look, I usually support bills that support our dealers because it's a tough business. And so just a couple questions. I didn't see it in the testimony, but someone mentioned it. So is NADA in support of this bill or no?
NADA doesn't have a position on the bill.
Okay. So that's their official, someone said that they were opposed. I don't remember hearing that somewhere, but okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a letter?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to that.
There's a letter of opposition?
Yes, we got it from, well, it was in my inbox today, so it should be in everyone's inbox.
Okay. Have you seen that letter? Have any of the three of you seen that letter?
I have not.
I haven't seen it.
The other thing is, so generally, as I understand it, the bigger issue is not necessarily the price, it's the money that the manufacturer gives you per unit sold after the fact. So like in the dealer game, no one's really making money on the price of cars these days. It's really like you sell a volume and then the manufacturer sends you X amount of dollars times how many units you sell, and that makes up the big portion of the profits.
Right.
And so my question is, because we was talked about, the car gets delivered, you own it. Most dealers floor plan new cars. So the reality is a dealer is financing those new cars through the manufacturer and then hoping to God the manufacturer pays them that payout per vehicle. So I guess as I read this, your concern is that if you violate the pricing rules with the manufacturer, it somehow impacts the money they, not kickback's not the right word, but the money they rebate to you,
Correct.
which is the big profit. And that's the point of this bill, correct?
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
the reality is we floor plan with a bank. It doesn't necessarily mean the manufacturer or it's whoever
But
gives
most
us the
floor
best
plan with
rate.
the manufacturer, isn't that true for new
No,
cars?
most of them is with a competitive bank that gives us a
Okay.
lower rate.
All right, but so the concern you'd have is with the rebates?
Right.
Okay. And just so I understand, as an example, so there's usually an MSRP, and then there's the wholesale value,
Invoice.
and then the invoice. And there's for some manufacturers, there's even a number below the invoice that most people don't even know. It's like a certain percentage, So like BMW, for example, don't ask me how I know this, but it's like 13%. And so, but they'll say between the MSRP and the invoice is 10%, but there's really another certain percentages beneath that anyways. Where do you want to advertise the vehicle? Like at the invoice?
That just depends on the vehicle, and this bill doesn't address that specifically. All this does is give us the ability to disclose. But dealers can still set their own prices.
To disclose the invoice?
Disclose that the price they're seeing is the minimum allowable advertised price, which is somewhere between invoice and MSRP.
Okay.
But yes, we might sell it for lower, MSRP being the sticker price, right?
And just so I remember, the agreement you sign with the manufacturer, does that explicitly prohibit you from listing that price?
No, because they're going to say dealers get to set their own prices. You just forego any incentives when you do that, which means that you pay more and your customers pay more for the car if you can even
So
sell
forego any incentives, you mean you don't get the rebate?
Correct.
Okay. So in other words, the contract the dealer signs with the manufacturer says if you advertise a price below what we say you can, which is the MSRP, we have the right to not rebate you that money after you sell all these units for.
That's right.
Okay. All right. And so even, and the last question is, even if you don't list the invoice price, you just list 500 below the MSRP, you could be in violation of that agreement and you could forego your rebate per
Correct.
vehicle.
They pick, it's a moving target, whatever they pick as map. They'll take it off at the end of the year sometimes or on a particular model, but it's just, you never know. But I can't even tell people that it is map, that it's a minimum allowable average. Those words are not permitted.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
I believe that's all the questions this panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have the appraisals, Dr. Fisher and Bill Press.
Can you go first?
Yeah.
Give it a Josh.
Yeah.
Chair Wilson, Vice Chair Crosby, members of the committee, my name is Josh Fisher with the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. We are a trade group representing the automakers with franchise new car dealers. I'm here to request an unfavorable report on Senate Bill 834. The bill prohibits automakers from taking an adverse action against dealers that disclose on their website that their selling price may be different than the minimum advertised price posted on their website. Manufacturers and dealers often have regional advertising associations in which the manufacturer and the local dealers pool their advertising dollars collectively to buy advertising that benefits all of them. For example, the commercials you see that see your Baltimore area dealer, that's what we're talking about here. These cooperative advertising agreements help avoid situations where individual dealers would shoulder the advertising burden alone. If manufacturers are contributing to advertising, then it's reasonable that manufacturers be able to attach strings to that money. For example, some automakers call it what we've heard as the minimum advertised price requirement. A key part of advertising to consumers is dealer websites. If a regional advertising agreement includes a minimum advertised price requirement, but the website portion of the agreement is unenforceable, then that diminishes the benefit of the bargain for the manufacturer and other dealers who contributed to the advertising campaign. Another way to say this bill is designed to benefit one dealer in particular, but other dealers will shoulder the burden when automakers discontinue their cooperative advertising agreements if this bill passes. In the spirit of cooperation, we offered an amendment which made clear that a dealer can disclose that a minimum advertised price is not necessarily its selling price unless it has signed an agreement to receive a benefit under an advertising program, in which case it must follow the program's rules. This amendment puts the choice in the dealer's hands. The dealer can follow its own advertising strategy or it can receive advertising benefits from the manufacturer's advertising program. Unfortunately, we're not able to reach an agreement. We must request an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Bill Kress here today on behalf of the Alliance for Automotive Innovation in opposition. Let me just make a couple of points. Minimum advertised price, it's not only done in the auto market, but many luxury brands, so it's not uncommon. And so why do we do it in the auto industry and what are the strings attached? We do it because we have regional advertising programs, and we want to set the price for the vehicle across the region. And so that is the incentive for the dealers. We'll put the money out for the advertising program. You'll list a car at the minimum advertised price. I don't think there's anyone in this room that thinks that that price is the price that you have to pay. If anyone's ever bought a car from a dealership, you know it's negotiable. Look, this committee has issued an unfavorable report on similar bills in the past. I think that NADA is opposed for one simple reason. We've seen in the past when the legislature has passed similar bills, manufacturers have actually ended programs, and we've come back with emergency legislation. So I think that is a possibility here. I think that's why NADA is concerned about it. And I hope you give that some consideration, and I'll conclude my testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I kind of just, Bill, I just want to touch upon just some things I've been reading in, is I've seen a lot of people in the last, especially 5 years, purchasing cars above the MSRP. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it doesn't sound like they know how to negotiate real well if that's that's become the new habit. Because I know coming, when I was growing up, if you paid MSRP, you were a laughing stock. But it seems to be the norm now of people paying the MSRP isn't even, that's not even the highest you're going to pay. So I guess I'm concerned when we talk about the negotiation skills when it seemed like the norm now is paying at least MSRP.
So that occurred during COVID.
Yes.
During supply constraints.
Yes.
That was the dealers taking advantage and marking up the cars. That was not a win for the manufacturers.
Oh, I'm not saying that they were angels. Yes, I don't disagree. I was just saying, but that's why I guess the concern is in the direction that we're going now is, and whether you, historically, when there are heavy tariffs put on cars, it just increased, especially that with steel and aluminum, that the costs continue to go up. And so I guess what we're concerned with, and this what I thought as a Delegate Chi put it, was fairly narrowly tailored to hopefully save individuals money. I guess, and I'm not trying to pressure on this, Bud, because I see it kind of flew out of the Senate. I'm just trying to figure out, what did they miss? Again, I'm not trying to put you in a
I'd be
weird
happy to
spot.
talk to you offline
that'd be
about
great.
why NAD was not opposed in the Senate and how the bill flew out and certain assertions that were made by the sponsor. But I would talk to you offline about that.
I mean, all right, yeah, I'd like to, if you don't mind.
Can I just add one point with respect to this issue?
Please.
So the other thing you should consider is the small dealerships, the dealerships that don't have 15 different locations, the ones that are operating in a much smaller margin. So you get somebody like Fitzgerald who can sell on volume and make enough profit to make it work, make enough profit in the service center end of it. Some of the dealerships in your jurisdiction and districts are going to be at a disadvantage should this pass, so something to consider.
Doug Harrison.
Thank you. You said something that sparked a question for me, because you mentioned, the advertisement that'll say, see your whatever area dealer. And so I thought about all of the advertisement on TV, on television. So an individual might see that fancy BMW, that new BMW, starting at, I don't know, a lease price of $8,000. No, I'm just kidding. But, it'll have its price. An individual then goes to the website to do some more research. And then they finally decide they want this particular one, and they make an appointment to go into the dealer. And so I think that I'm understanding that this bill says that when they look at what is on the website, regardless of what was advertised on TV, and then they go to the website and they see, starting at, $49,000. And then they get to the dealer and they see it might be $48,000. I think from what I understand, the bill is saying that in that online advertisement, that they are going to be required to say that there may be a lower price if they go into the dealer. And how does that jive with maybe what has been advertised on TV? Do they all work together? I don't know, because I'm in the Washington market, so it'll say, see your Washington area BMW dealer.
Exactly. That kind of gets to the heart of this. So what our members are concerned about is that they are trying to provide a benefit to their DC area BMW dealers, Baltimore area Chevy dealers, by saying, hey, you 5 or 6 dealers, maybe you can't afford individually to advertise on TV, but we'll give you this money as a part of a cooperative advertising arrangement. So the manufacturer's contributing money, the individual dealers are then contributing money. And so there's arrangements. This is a contract, it's an agreement. So the manufacturer is giving money, and what they want in return are certain requirements on the website advertised uniformly, because those individual dealers are not trying to compete on that advertisement. They're trying to draw attention, get people into their dealership. But if one manufacturer goes against that agreement, which is what is being proposed here, then the benefit of that bargain for the manufacturer and all those other dealers goes out the window. So if manufacturers who are cooperating with their dealers to provide money to advertise, and one of those dealers breaks the rules, that's what we're trying to guard against here. The amendment we propose would have allowed Mr. Fitzgerald and his dealerships to advertise whatever price they want. But if they did that, they could not accept the manufacturer's money as part of this cooperative advertising agreement because they're not following the rules. I don't like paying my mortgage every month, but I agreed to pay it at a certain interest rate, and I can't change it. And that's kind of what we're talking about here.
How then would this affect advertisement on television? This does not address that?
This is limited to the websites, you're correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess I want to get a chance to ask you about the amendment and tell me as much as you can about what happened. So I've actually found the amendment that was suggested in JPR under Mr. Fisher's, I guess, testimony. So are you saying that the sponsor didn't like this amendment? Because the panelists before didn't seem to know about the amendment. So that's why I'm a little confused. Is this the sponsor saying we didn't want this, or the advocates?
Yeah, the sponsor rejected the amendment.
Sponsor rejected. Okay, that's all I need to know. Thanks.
Delegate Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good to see you again, Mr. Fisher. So you mentioned in your remarks that this bill is only for one dealer. And I understand that Mr. Fitzgerald is the most vocal one on this issue, but I know for a fact that more than one dealer actually agrees with that. In fact, back when I was a sponsor of a similar bill, I actually got a call, a pretty long voice message left by a dealer from a neighboring county thanking me for sponsoring this. And he said he just didn't have the wherewithal to fight himself. But he agrees this is unfair practice and dealers are just afraid of retaliation. So I just want to point out that there is an inherent power imbalance between those global manufacturers and local dealers. That doesn't mean they all agree this is the best practice, okay? So I think this is a very mild compromise, especially given this kind of economic situation that people find ourselves in. So I just want to, on the record, correct the assertion that you made, okay?
Nice to see you as well, Delegate Shi. It's always nice to see you.
With that, yes,
Yes,
very
yes.
nice to see
No,
you.
and I understand it, but- and I think I do want to push back a little bit about this impacting the prices consumers will pay. I don't agree with that comment. This is, in any business, if you violate the terms of a contract, there's consequences. And if the dealers, if any dealer wants to advertise at any price, they can, as long as they have not signed an agreement saying they would not otherwise do so. So that's what our amendment tried to accomplish. So we're trying to find common ground here, but I appreciate your point. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, sir, I apologize for not knowing your name, but I'm Josh. So you said something that kind of struck me in terms of interest rates on mortgages and having purchased a house recently, right? Like they're posted, so I know what the starting point is in that scenario. So I guess if you were to post the minimum price, right, like doesn't that set a baseline for a streamlined negotiation process? Like shouldn't that speed it up in that instance?
Mr. Vice Chair, I guess I would counter by saying even an advertised price is never the final price, right? You might have a trade-in, you might have other considerations, depending on what time of the month it is for that dealership. If they need to move more product, they might be more willing to make a deal. So I guess, fundamentally, even the advertised price is not the final price. And
In the negotiation, it lead to efficiency.
Yes.
For example, and I'll go the other way, like the buyer doesn't come in and make some ridiculous lowball offer, right? They're coming in with a realistic expectation, and that's where you're gonna start. So it makes it a little bit easier then to negotiate from that point. Or am I missing something?
I think that's what the minimum advertised price allows for. It's designed to put all the dealers on the same playing field so the consumer goes in there and can then begin that process. So I think, yes, I do agree with that.
Delegate Pippy.
Just, and it might have been said, and I apologize if I missed it. Is every dealer required to participate in the advertising program?
No.
Okay. Does every dealer participate in the advertising program?
I don't know. Not every manufacturer has a minimum allowable price requirement, so it'll be dependent on each manufacturer.
Would it be fair to say that most, if not all, dealers participate in the advertising program?
I would assume so. It's money from the manufacturer to help advertise and get customers into their doors, yeah.
Okay. And so in order to share, I guess, in those expenses, there's a clause in that. So that's a separate contract than just the standard one they may have of just being a dealer.
Sales and service agreement,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's a separate contract that they maybe sign every year or quarterly, whatever it is. And in there, the manufacturer says, hey, you got to stick with this price. If you go below that, we reserve the right to, I guess, not,
You might lose an incentive.
Incentives.
Yeah, right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So very quickly, following up from the vice chair who talked about the negotiating process. So if you can't put on the website in any way that there may be another price or there may be a lower price, because you can't put it on the website, then some folks might not completely understand that there is an opportunity to negotiate at the dealership level.
Perhaps.
So I say that because if that's the objective is, to kind of get them in the door and then potentially negotiate, which both of you stipulated, or I know you, Mr. Kress, stipulated that the importance of the negotiating process, and they don't know that there's an opportunity to negotiate because you're not telling them there's an opportunity to negotiate at all. You're basically saying, this is the price period, as opposed to, there might be a little bit better price that you can do. So it seems to be contradictory to your argument, is I guess what I'm saying.
Well, I guess I'll go back to what we're trying to protect against here. And first of all, there's nothing stopping a dealer from advertising whatever price they want to. However, if they have agreed not to, that's what we're trying to say. If you've agreed not to, then you can't break your contract and still get this money that the manufacturer's providing you because you've violated the terms of your agreement. And that's what this bill would allow, and that's what we're trying to protect.
I know, I understand that. But the point that they can't even mention in any way whatsoever that there may be another price is concerning, because then people go into it, they don't even know they can negotiate. Mr. Kress, you may buy, a lot of cars over your lifetime, and so you may know, you walk right into that, you walk right into that Bentley dealership, when you walk into that Bentley dealership that you can negotiate. But not everybody, knows that, right?
Well, I hope the dealership would tell the customer when they come in, let's make a deal. Because they're the ones who set the price and sell the vehicle.
Right, but you and I both know that these are professional sales folks, and they can read people coming in the door, and they know whether there's an opportunity to negotiate or not negotiate. I will leave it at there. I would just think that there's a little hole there. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, that does conclude this bill hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Please don't go anywhere. We're going to do a brief voting session. Should be about 10 minutes, so please don't rush off. Thank you.